Good morning, everyone. My name is Marisa Sterling, and I am the Assistant Dean and Director of the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Professionalism for the Faculty of Applied Science and Engineering here at the University of Toronto. I also recently completed a term as President of Ontario's Engineering Regulator, Professional Engineers Ontario. I use the pronouns she and her. Welcome and thank you all for joining us to recognize the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women. The event is closed caption. Turn on captions. To do so, please look for the captions button at the bottom of your screen to turn them on. For assistance, please ask for help in the chat and someone will reach out to you with support. Today's event has been co-organized with the university's Community Safety Office, the Faculty of Applied Science and Engineering, Heart House, the Sexual and Gender Diversity Office, and the Sexual Violence Prevention and Support Center. We're thrilled to be hosting this event as a tri-campus community with support from campus partners at University of Toronto Scarborough, University of Toronto Mississauga, and St. George. To add further meaning to my welcome this morning and this virtual event, I would like to say a few words to acknowledge my positionality as a settler on Turtle Island, the name many Indigenous people give to North America. I invite you to join me in self-reflection. My family came from Scotland, England, and Italy to settle here. Now I live and work on this land that for thousands of years has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, I'm emceeing this event from a meeting place that is still home to many Indigenous people, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. You can find a link in the chat to the website native-land.ca, where you can learn about the land you are joining from for today's event. The harm caused by settlers to this land and to First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people has been and continues to be deep and long-lasting. Land acknowledgements like the one I'm making today do not exist in a past tense or historical context. Colonialism is a current, ongoing process, and I'm working to build mindfulness of my present participation. And as an engineer with an ethical and professional duty to public well-being, I am actively working to improve the nation-to-nation relationship between engineering and Indigenous communities. On this day of remembrance and every day, I would encourage everyone to reflect on the role we have in reconciliation. And in particular today, when we commit to actions to end violence against women, that we actualize justice for the thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, two-spirited, trans, and non-binary folk across Turtle Island. I would now like to share a couple of technical notes for today. The chat function is open as the organizing committee recognizes it can be a useful tool for participant engagement. We will do our best to monitor and respond to the chat throughout the duration of the event. Any disrespectful language or comments will result in that participant's removal from the webinar. And in the event of Zoom bombing, we will need to close this session immediately and reschedule. I ask for your active support in making today an inclusive virtual event. If you're having technical issues with Zoom, please use the chat function and send a message to all panelists, and someone from our team will endeavor to provide you with support. Today's event will be recorded for archival purposes and will be made available online for those who could not attend and wish to watch at a later date. The memorial portion and the panel discussion may also be reused by the co-organizers. The recording is of the on-camera participants only and will only include images and voices of those people. No audience members will be shown or voice recorded, nor the chat reproduced. If you have questions for today's event, please use the Q&A box to type your question. Please do not post questions in the chat function as they may get lost amongst a lively conversation. Q&A questions will be recorded by Zoom and questions will be read by the Q&A moderator as time permits during the panel. If you do not wish for your name to be read alongside your question, please ask your question anonymously. We recognize that the topics we are discussing today are complex, important, and sometimes very painful. Should you feel during today's event or at any other point in time you would like to speak to someone, the university has support services available through the Sexual Violence Prevention and Support Center. You may speak with the center's coordinators, Gia Yao or Paula Lam. Gia and Paula can be contacted by emailing the center throughout today's event or afterwards at sbpscenter@utoronto.ca. The email address can also be found in the chat. If you would like to speak on the phone with either Gia or Paula, please email your phone number to the center and they will call you back. Please indicate whether they can leave a voicemail if they can't reach you. Additionally, we have shared the contact information for other supportive resources at the university and in the community. This information has also been placed in the chat. Today, we're joining communities across Canada in remembering the 14 women killed in a devastating act of misogyny in 1989, because they were women in an engineering school at Montreal's École Polytechnique. December 6th marks a National Day of Remembrance, when we gather to commemorate the many lives that have been impacted by gender-based violence. Importantly, it is also a day to reflect on action, how we can continue to respond, to advocate, to support, and to work together for gender equity. We're here today to honor the lives of women impacted by gender-based violence and recommit ourselves to awareness and prevention. We'll begin today's event by presenting awards to some of our incredible student leaders who are doing important work on issues related to gender-based violence. This will be followed by a period of memorial and reflection, a short musical performance, and then a panel discussion on the rise of gender-based violence during COVID-19. We're also pleased to share an activity from the Get Crafty team at Heart House. Talking about gender-based violence can be activating for many of us. So we recommend you take some time after our session today to engage in mindful doodling. We'll share the activity with you now in the chat, and you can work on it at your own pace after our discussion. To begin our program, I'd like to introduce Sandy Welsh, the Vice Provost Students at the University of Toronto, who will be presenting the awards for scholarly achievement in the area of gender-based violence. Sandy, over to you.
Thank you, Marissa. I'm honored to participate today, and I join today's speakers in emphasizing how critically important it is for us to continue to remember this day and to reaffirm our commitment to action on ending gender-based violence. One way in which U of T affirms this commitment is by recognizing those in our community that are leading the work in the area of gender-based violence, specifically students who are at the forefront of this work. The award for scholarly achievement in the area of gender-based violence was first given out in 2017 to recognize students who have made distinctive contributions in this area. The award is sponsored jointly by the Office of the Vice President and Provost and the Office of the Vice President, People, Strategy, Equity, and Culture. And the award is open to students across all programs and years of study who have demonstrated an interest and commitment to academic work and or community or co-curricular involvement on issues of violence against women, girls, trans, and gender non-binary people. This year, we had an exceptional pool of applicants, and we are pleased to present the 2021 awards to 2 graduate students and 1 undergraduate student. I will share a brief summary on all 3 of our winners here today and ask you to join me in congratulating them on their work and on this award. The first graduate award recipient is Eugene Emeka Dim. Eugene is a PhD student in the Department of Sociology, whose work centers on intimate partner violence, gender studies, and political participation in Africa. He has several published peer-reviewed articles and has presented academic papers on gender issues in Africa, family violence, and African women's political participation. Eugene's work draws largely on data from the Canadian General Social Survey on Victimization, Afrobarometer, and the Nigerian Demographic Health Survey. His academic work is motivated by the desire to contribute to the African perspectives and narratives on gender, political agency, and the dynamics of violence to social research. I would like to thank Eugene for this important research and to congratulate him on this award. Our second graduate award winner is Ran Hu. Ran is a doctoral candidate at the Factor Inwentash Faculty of Social Work. Ran's research has been focused on structural and interpersonal violence against women, policies on sex work and human trafficking, and victim misrepresentation issues in the North American anti-trafficking campaigns. In the scholarly work submitted for this award competition, she discusses the misrepresentation of victims in the educational messaging on sex trafficking promoted in the US End Demand campaign. This work is situated in the broader feminist critical reflection on state and structural violence, epistemic injustice, and carceral interventions against racialized women. Ran's doctoral thesis directly engages with advocacy against sex work criminalization in the US, which intersects with other structural inequalities to compound risks of gender-based violence. Congratulations, Ran, and thank you for your contributions to this critical work. Next, I am pleased to announce this year's undergraduate award winner, Micah Kalish. Micah is entering their third year of undergraduate studies, double majoring in gender studies and sociology with a minor in equity studies. As a survivor of sexual violence, Micah is dedicated to survivor advocacy work both on and off of the U of T campus. As such, they have founded and led an initiative called the PAIRS Project, or Prevention, Empowerment, Advocacy, Response for Survivors, a grassroots survivor advocacy group with over 75 members across all three campuses. Through the PAIRS Project, Micah has provided peer support to survivors of gender-based violence across all three campuses, connecting people with access to safer housing, counseling, financial aid, and trauma-informed medical care. By working with external organizations, Micah coordinated trauma-informed peer support training for over 100 U of T students and student leaders, filling a need she identified for a student-led cross-campus initiative like this. Through this work, Micah has partnered with Red Door Women and Family Shelter, the Dandelion Initiative, Students for Consent, Cultural, Sexual, and Reproductive Health Rights, and other prominent reproductive justice and survivor-led organizations. Micah hopes to pursue a career in survivor advocacy and intersectional gender inequality. Thank you, Micah, for your deep commitment to this work, your support of student survivors, and congratulations on this award. All three of this year's award winners should be commended on their contributions in research and action on influencing and helping us find a better way forward. We thank you for your commitment and your passion in shining a spotlight on gender-based violence and working toward a better, safer future for women and girls, trans and non-binary people. Thank you and congratulations to you all once again. I also want to thank this year's award selection committee members, Professor Rupaleen Bhuyan and Professor Suzanne Siccia, both of whom I believe are in attendance today. Thank you for your careful consideration of our award application. And on behalf of Professor Kelly Hannah Moffat and myself, thank you for your own personal commitment to gender-based violence research and action. And I now pass it back to you, Marissa, to lead the next portion of today's event.
Thank you so much, Sandy. And thank you to your office and the Office of the Vice President, People, Strategy, Equity, and Culture, and to the Award Selection Committee. And my congratulations to Eugene, Ran, and Micah. Your contributions to this work and to our time here today are so appreciated. This day is about remembering women who have experienced violence and those who have lost their lives to it. It is also a time to take action. In times of crises, rates of intimate partner violence and incidents of gender-based violence tend to increase. This is something we have seen across Canada and globally in the last 2 years. The COVID-19 crisis has further amplified and exacerbated this impact on women. Social and economic barriers have placed additional pressures on Black, Indigenous, women of color, LGBTQ2S+ women, and women with low income, disabilities, and mental health issues. Pandemic-related loss and stress, including the isolation resulting from the social distancing and quarantine measures, may have more of a serious impact on the well-being and safety of victims of gender-based violence as access and support is restricted. Working together, we can help prevent and address violence against women by remembering and learning from our past, listening to our survivors, and speaking up against harmful behavior. I'd like everyone now to join me in a reflection. On the night of December 6, 1989, at about 5:10 p.m., a gunman entered École Polytechnique in Montreal. Armed with a rifle and a hunting knife, he first entered a mechanical engineering classroom where a student presentation was being given. He ordered the women and the men to stand at different sides of the classroom. Ushering out the men, he then said, "You're women. You're going to be engineers. You're all a bunch of feminists. I hate feminists." He opened fire. 6 women were killed in that classroom. 3 more were shot at. He then moved through the corridors, the cafeteria, and other classrooms targeting women to shoot for the next 20 minutes. Overall, 14 women died. 12 were engineering students, 1 was a nursing student, and 1 an employee of the university. And 14 other people were injured, including 4 men. The shooting spree remains one of the deadliest in Canadian history. The event happened 32 years ago. And if they survived, these women might have been parents to the undergraduate and graduate students watching this ceremony today. In 1989, I was a 3rd-year chemical engineering student here at U of T. At the time, I knew I was in the minority and there were not many students that looked like me. As a result, I dressed down to fit in, trying not to draw attention to my gender. I was asked to speak on panels about why there were so few women in engineering, as if my voice was the voice of all women. While honored, I also felt like I had a burden placed on my shoulders to speak for all the women, and that my performance was under a microscope to prove whether women could be successful in engineering. Perhaps this propelled me to become the 8th woman president in 100 years of the organization that regulates Ontario's 90,000 engineers. And perhaps you know women achieving at the highest ranks of their careers today. At the same time, throughout my career in industry, I have had to develop resilience and strategies to deal with comments about my appearance, male work colleagues coming into my hotel room to work during out-of-town meetings, and an assault near my home. I've experienced firsthand that any level of aggression can make someone lose their sense of self, their inner drive to survive, their ability to defend themselves, and their voice to speak up. Since the 1989 tragedy, members of the engineering and STEM communities have prioritized changing their cultures to be welcoming of women. In 1989, The Women in Science and Engineering organization, known as WISE, was incorporated, and chapters now around the world, including one here at U of T, are very active to support women in STEM. U of T's undergraduate engineering student population is now near 40% women, a substantial growth from 15% back in 1989. It is important to remember women trailblazers in engineering and science and their allies, such as Elsie McGill, the world's first women aircraft designer and first woman to graduate with an engineering degree at U of T in 1927. Claudette McKay-Lassonde, the first woman president of Ontario's engineering regulator in 1986, and whose family name is that of U of T's Lassonde Institute of Mining. An undergraduate student, Jacqueline Flesig, the current president of the Engineering Society, who continues to show outstanding leadership, having also been president of U of T's Engineers Without Borders. But gender-based discrimination and harassment is not the only barrier facing those pursuing engineering and other STEM fields. We know that Black, Indigenous, racialized women and girls in Canada experience additional and compounding discrimination. That newcomer, migrant, and undocumented women are not afforded the same opportunities. And that trans, non-binary, and gender diverse people experience greater rates of unemployment and an increased risk of violence. All of this is preventable. It starts with each of us taking action. I'm looking forward to the ways that we can bring positive change, and that will be discussed in today's panel. We need to change the system that allows violence to continue to be known as an acceptable way of life. We need to peel back the unconscious biases that have perpetuated falsehoods, such as in engineering that women are just not physically strong enough or just not good in math. We need to speak up when we witness acts of bullying, harassment, and violence. We need to all act and work together, no matter our gender identity. Until violence against women has been eradicated, we will remember these 14 women and their families and bring awareness for the need for further actions every day. We remember the families and loved ones of all those who have died and been harmed by violence against women. We remember each woman and honor their pioneering spirit that they represent collectively as women determined to make a difference in the world. Today, while we remember the 14 women who lost their lives 32 years ago, we cannot continue without remembering the loss of more than 1,600 Indigenous women and girls who have been missing and murdered across decades. This continues to be a systemic endemic on this land till today. I invite you at this time to turn off any other devices and activities and draw your full attention to this screen. With the help of undergraduate and graduate students at U of T, we would like to take this time to honor those lost on December 6, 1989. This video will conclude with a moment of silence.
Geneviève Bergeron, age 21, second year civil engineering student.
Guylaine Colgan, age 23, fourth year mechanical engineering student.
Nathalie Creteau, age 23, fourth year mechanical engineering student.
Barbara Degno, 22, fourth year mechanical engineering student.
Anne-Marie Edward, age 21, first year chemical engineering student.
Maud Avarniak, age 29, second year metallurgical engineering student.
Barbara Klushnik Vidarovich, age 31, first year nursing student.
Maryse Lagagna, age 25, budget clerk in the École Polytechnique Finance Department.
Maryse Leclerc, age 23, fourth year metallurgical engineering student.
Anne-Marie Lemay, age 27, fourth year mechanical engineering student.
Sonia Belty, age 28, fourth year mechanical engineering student.
Michelle Richard, age 21, second year metallurgical engineering student.
Annie Saint Arnaud, age 23, fourth year mechanical engineering student.
Annie Turcotte, age 21, first year metallurgical engineering student. We will now have a moment of silence as we remember these daughters, sisters, and granddaughters, that they will never be partners, mothers, engineers, nurses, or clerks, and what lives they could have lived if their own lives were never cut short.
Thank you for participating in the moment of silence. Thank you to all the 14 students who took time to be a part of this memorial video. They are from the U of T Departments of Economics, School of the Environment, Political Science, Philosophy, Nursing, Sociology, and Engineering. And thank you to Sacco of Hardhouse for creating the memorial video you saw today. And if you are on the St. George campus today, please take a look when you pass by Convocation Hall, where you will find an outdoor art installation produced by students of the Blue and Gold Committee of U of T Engineering. The installation is a large white rose with interactive lights and the names of the 14 women who died. I want to thank the Blue and Gold Committee for taking time each year to bring a very thoughtful and reflective installation to the campus. As we transition now into our panel discussion, I'm pleased to share a performance from the school orchestra, a 54-member symphonic orchestra based within the U of T's Faculty of Applied Science and Engineering. They'll be playing a piece called Intermezzo. It's from the 1890 opera Cavaliera Rusticana by Pietro Mascagni. As you listen, I invite you to reflect on the discussion to come. Thank you for that beautiful performance. I will acknowledge in the chat the awesomeness of the comments towards the orchestra. I'm always struck by just how powerful music can be as a tool to support us as we meditate on the issues at hand and as we are stirred into action. It is now my pleasure to introduce Angela Treglia, the Director of the Sexual Violence Prevention and Support at U of T, and Bristi Chakrabarti, a case manager with the Community Safety Office, who will lead our panel discussion. Over to you.
Thank you, Marisa, and congratulations to all the award winners, and what a beautiful performance that was by the school orchestra. I'm feeling all the feelings right now, as I'm sure most of you are as well. So thank you to everyone who's participated and is here. As Marisa mentioned, my name is Angela Treglia. I use the pronouns she, her. I'm a cisgender, queer, white woman and a settler that I'm very grateful to be joining you virtually today from Mississauga, which is part of Treaty Lands in the territory of the Mississauga of the Credit. I will now pass it to my co-facilitator, Bristi, to introduce herself.
Thank you, Angela. Hello, everyone. My name is Bristi. I use the pronouns she and her. I'm a case manager with the Community Safety Office. I identify as a cisgender straight woman and a settler on Turtle Island. I'm joining you today from Scarborough, traditional territory of the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples under Treaty 13. I came to Turtle Island as a young immigrant from Bangladesh, where I was born and raised. Over to you, Angela.
We are so honored to welcome you all to the panel discussion. We will ask our panelists to introduce themselves shortly, but we are thrilled today to be joined by Chi Duke, Paulette Senior, Renita Verma, and Selena Zhang. Today's panel will focus on the intersection of gender-based violence and the COVID-19 pandemic. This is sometimes referred to as the shadow pandemic. The United Nations has said that across every sphere, from health to the economy, security to social protection, the impacts of COVID-19 are exacerbated by women and girls simply by the virtue of their sex, and that even the limited gains made in the past decades are at risk of being rolled back. Discussions today will focus on the disproportionate impact COVID has had on women, and in particular Black, Indigenous, and racialized women, and how at the macro, meso, and micro level, we can integrate prevention strategies into our pandemic recovery.
As cisgender able-bodied women, we know that our cisnormativity, whiteness, and ableism show up in our lives, our work, and in this space right now. We also know all women navigate this world with resiliency, facing misogynistic, racist, homophobic, and transphobic harm that is fueled by misogyny and misogynoir. In our discussion today, we'll focus on the reality of resiliency in a post-pandemic world for Black, Indigenous, Asian, and all other racialized women, two-spirited, trans, queer women, non-binary folks, and people living with disabilities. Since we met last year, gender-based violence has not paused. The world has witnessed the shooting spree at spas in Atlanta, which took the lives of 6 Asian women, fueled by misogyny and anti-Asian hate. We have experienced the global uptake of Black Lives Matter movement in response to continued police brutality and systematic racism. And we have also grappled with the discovery of more than 1,000 unmarked graves of Indigenous children in Canada. We know there are many more. In these bodies, living every day is an act of resilience. We'll explore what the cost of resiliency is for these communities and if and how it can be redistributed.
Lockdown measures necessitated by the COVID-19 pandemic led to increased isolation, loneliness, and a rise of the risk of gender-based violence at home and online. Members of our community face new challenges, including how to safely reach out for support and how to deal with the changing nature of sexual and gender-based violence.
To help us unpack these topics, we have invited 4 lovely panelists. For the next 40 minutes, you will hear from the speakers, followed by a Q&A segment open to all the attendees. We invite you to submit your thoughts or questions throughout the discussion via the Q&A function, and we'll review the submissions for our panelists.
We will now ask the panelists to introduce themselves and reflect on what this day represents to them. Once everyone introduces themselves, we will then present questions to guide our discussion amongst the panelists. For the introductions, can we please invite Selena to start us off?
Hi, everyone. My name is Selena, and I'm now a 4th-year undergraduate student from UTSC campus, and I'm also an international student coming from a Chinese background. And this day is very special to me because in my 2nd year, I was working as a work-study student at the Sexual Violence Prevention and Support Center. And the first event I ever helped to host was the visual event for December 6th on that year. And this is really a great opportunity for me to learn about the murder happened in Montreal 30 years ago, and also to learn about some existing issues in our society currently, and also how we can actually help to solve the problems and what we can contribute to the issues. So I think it's a really great opportunity for me to learn more and also have a meaningful discussion with other people on the topic. So I'm really looking forward to the discussion later. Thank you.
Thank you, Selena. And if we can pass it on to Renita.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Renita, use she, her pronouns. I am coordinator of anti-violence initiatives at the 519. 519 is a community center supporting 2S LGBTQ folks, folks that live in the downtown east. My job is about supporting folks who have experienced violence or trauma. I will leave it at that because that's a lot there. This day, it has a lot of feelings attached to this day. But the one thing is that it's been 32 years and we've kind of come a long way, and at the same time we haven't. It is a reminder that while community events and spaces and supports are developing, there are so many humans who we've left behind. So it is nice to see that we are recognizing the folks that need to be supported, and making sure that we are being, that we're offering inclusive spaces and inclusive supports. So yeah, it's that's kind of what this day means to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Renita. T.
Minogishagad, Tiduk, and Dishnakaz, Ni Sachuan Anishinaabe Nation, Treaty 3 Nandojaba, Anishinaabe Kwendao, Bijou Nindodem. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is T. Duke. I am the Assistant Director of Indigenous Initiatives at UTM. I am also a very proud Anishinaabe Kwe, Anishinaabe woman, so my pronouns are she and her. And I'm also a very proud member of the Lynx clan. I am really honored, very honored to be here today. I'd like to take the opportunity to say miigwech to the organizers, as well as my fellow panelists. It's a heavy day, but it's also a day to reflect and to honor and to also think about how can we continue to be agents of change. And that's a piece that I would really love to absolutely bring forward today to our broader U of T community, is really thinking about the work and reflection that has already been done by incredible leaders that that want to bring forward that change. And that's something that I'm really excited to be engaged with today. So again, miigwech the organizers and panelists. I'm so very, very honored to be here. Miigwech.
Thank you, T. And we'll pass over to Paulette, last but not least.
Thank you so much, Angela, and good afternoon, everyone. Honored to be here with my co-panelists and to be a part of this truly honoring event. So my name is Paulette Senior. I'm President and CEO of the Canadian Women's Foundation. Let me just take a moment to acknowledge that I am joining you from the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog, Island First Nation, and Williams Treaty signatories of the Mississauga and Chippewa Nations. Just also outside of Toronto in Pickering. You know, the question around my reflections on this day is, as Angela said, feeling the feelings for sure, but also just reminded that this is an issue that has been with us before 1989. And 1989 is certainly a marker in our history, but also that we continue to lose women every single day in this country to intimate partner violence. And so I am just reflecting on that. I'm reflecting on the fact that we must not forget the names of these women and those who have lost their lives since then. But also what I am heartened by is that this is not just about remembrance. It's also about action, determined, proactive action and advocacy to end gender-based violence. So I am, that's what I am, that's what I signed up for. In terms of the work that I've been doing at the Canadian Women's Foundation. We are a national foundation that has been working to advance gender justice for 30 years. And we are able to do that because of the generous donors and supports that we have to fund grassroots community services that empower women, girls, and non-binary people to move out of violence, out of poverty, into confidence and leadership. So that's what this work is about. And I am really looking forward to the dialogue that we're going to have among my panelists. Thank you.
Thank you everyone so much for those opening remarks. I can already tell we're going to have just an amazing dialogue with those initial reflections. So really grateful to be able to share this space with you today. Thank you.
So folks, we'll open this panel discussion with our first question. Here it goes. When the COVID-19 pandemic began, there was public discourse about the pandemic's gendered impacts. Now that we are almost 2 years into this challenging period, what are some of the disproportionate impact COVID has had on women, and in particular, Black, Indigenous, Asian, and people of other racialized groups? I'm going to pass it over to Paulette and invite her to share her thoughts.
Thank you, Bristi. So many of the communities that you mentioned were at higher risk of living with violence and poverty before the pandemic began. We also know that that Black, Indigenous, and racialized communities, including women with disabilities, and other kinds of barriers that particular women face. We also know that these communities have been among the hardest hit by pandemic job losses and layoffs. So let me just lay that out a little bit as well. On the other hand, many racialized and newcomer women are on the front lines of this pandemic, working in caregiving and health-related roles that have put them at higher risk more than others. Risk of catching the virus while they're keeping the rest of us safe. And we've seen that in the news over the past 21 months. And many of these roles that they take on the front lines are underpaid and undervalued. And so the pandemic has added what I would call barriers that underserved communities are facing, and it's clearly particularly alarming when we think of women and gender diverse people who are experiencing abuse. So our current circumstances have limited the options for getting help, accessing services, and moving into safer situations. What we also know is that the pandemic has helped us see the flaws. So there are many things that we've seen during this pandemic, whether it's BLM action that's been taken or the direct impact of the pandemic, what Indigenous people particularly have had to face and what we've seen. And these are things we can't unsee. And so it's really helped us see the flaws and inequities in our systems and power structures, and shown us that we can't just ache to go back to the way it was before. The foundation has released a series of policy papers called Resetting Normal, which really provide a roadmap for centering gender justice in the pandemic recovery. And one of the reports that we did focuses specifically on gender-based violence and makes recommendations for addressing these issues, not just from the particular lens of gender, but from an intersectional lens, so that no one is left behind.
Thank you so much, Paulette. I'm going to invite the remaining panelists to share your thoughts on this as well. Renita, did you?
I was like, are we all being polite? I was like, go first. Everything that Paulette said is yes. It's shown that there are so many gaps, and that there was definitely spaces for people to be like, yes, there are definitely situations that racialized folks have to experience, Indigenous folks have to experience, but it was just kind of shelved, and it was just kind of like having conversations in certain communities. And COVID has like kind of made it a hot topic to be like, actually, a lot more people know about this, which is like a beautiful opportunity to be like, great, how can we work together so that this does not continue? So that we do not have to continue living in these unhealthy lifestyles, lack of supports, getting resources that are not culturally appropriate. So it's really highlighted this in the work that I'm doing. And it's really highlighted just, general lack of support everywhere. Max capacity for being able to access services, wait lists are so intense right now. I think this is, I think one of the things that I'm struggling with on a daily basis. And yeah, that there just needs to be a lot more learning within community organizations that we work with, a lot more inclusive spaces. When we're talking about IPV, who are we talking about? You know, it's really important. I've sat in spaces where it's like women, and I'm like, and we've left out so many humans that need to access services because of a single word and how we viewed you know, gender-based violence for a really long time. So yeah, a lot of things are coming up, and a lot of things are also, I think, starting to unfold, that there needs to be a lot of learning, unpacking, and better resources and community services that we have an opportunity for change here. I think that's what definitely learned.
Thank you so much, Renita. I'm going to invite T. Go ahead.
Thanks. Thank you, Pristy. Yes, absolutely echoing the just what was brought forward by Paulette and Renita. I would like to take an opportunity to also highlight the incredible work that the Native Women's Association of Canada completed in the very early start of the pandemic back in 2020. And the reason why I want to highlight this for everyone here today is because they did conduct a series of nationwide grassroots consultations with local member offices within Ontario and beyond, outside of the province, specifically with Indigenous women, to really determine how COVID-19 has been affecting First Nations, Inuit, Métis women in Canada, as well as the Two-Spirited community. And what was extremely alarming is what they found out of surveying approximately around 250 Indigenous women. They found in the very early start of the pandemic, 1 in 5 women were reporting that they've been a victim of physical or psychological violence over the past 3 months in the very start. So I can only imagine now if Native women's conducted this consultation process again. Unfortunately, I firmly believe it'd be astronomically higher than that reported number. But the other 2 pieces that they found, which did a lot of self-reflection for myself, as well as a very proud Indigenous woman, and of course an advocate and supporter of the Two-Spirited community, is the 2 pieces is that the unfortunate reality for Indigenous women and Two-Spirited community members is that when being in violent situations in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic in the very beginning, unfortunately, we're more scared of being in a violent situation than they were of the actual virus. Now, let's take a second to reflect on that. And the other really alarming pieces were the fact that as everyone trying to navigate this pandemic, we were restricted to our homes, which naturally, if we're so lucky, you know, our homes should be places of safety and peace for us. But when we talk about Indigenous women, women experiencing violence, Two-Spirited community members, unfortunately, the home is not a place of safety or peace. So another thing that came forward was, where are the supportive resources where Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirited community members can go? And unfortunately, it's limited when we talk about that particular community focus, because as Indigenous people, we often want to access supportive services that are culturally inclusive because of the impacts of colonialism. So we're looking for shelters and supportive resources that have culture, language, access to knowledge keepers. And that was something else that came out of this consultation process, is that we realized that there was a lack of that. And then, of course, the last piece as well is just, how are we, if we really truly want to be agents of change and we want to see action, how are we connecting to these incredible inquiries, the reports that have been completed, and we do have a roadmap? Like, I think that's another piece that we tend to forget as a larger community when we think about what are our roles and responsibilities in ending violence against women and girls and Two-Spirited community members, is that we have approximately 231 calls for justice that tell us how we can do it. Or we're just on the brink of the 2021 National Action Plan to ending violence against missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirited people. So like, I think that's just some of those pieces that I really wanted to bring forward. And unfortunately, it's something that we're still navigating because the pandemic isn't over. So those are just some pieces I wanted to bring forward as well, Miigwech.
Much appreciation, T. Thank you for that. Selena, did you want to share your thoughts before we move on to the next question?
Yeah, so thank you so much for all those information. I don't have a holistic picture because I don't work in this field, but I can share some personal experiences being a female student and also an international student in UTSC. So COVID definitely have some impact on my life, or from my observation of other students around me. As an international student coming from China, I think not only do we face fear of getting infected by the virus, we also face fear that's targeted towards Asian and also especially the Chinese group, because as we all assume that the virus come from China, people get afraid of us, and also they hate us because of this. So the look of an Asian face just add another layer of danger probably to us. And in one of the call with my mom even said that I should dye my hair blonde so I look less like Asian. Like, that sounds like a joke, but that also is part of the fear of me and also my parents. They worry about my safety of being here in this country. And also we also face isolation during COVID. I was very lucky enough to have a support system built around me that kind of supported me through COVID, but I know a lot of other students that they don't have a lot of friends around them, and then COVID hit, they have to live by themselves alone without the support of their parents, and also they don't really have an opportunity to just fly home because of travel restrictions. So I think this is also another issue that international students face during COVID, and I think this is a really good opportunity for us to probably consider these experiences and to talk about some of the risks that people like me or international students might face in this situation. Yeah, thank you.
Selena, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. I'm sitting with that as I'm speaking right now. I'm sitting with everything you just shared right now, and thank you to all of you for painting a very bird's eye view of everything that's been going on, and the trickle down impact and on economical impact to service provision gaps, what that looks like, and the lack of culturally inclusive services, what that translates to. And Selena, I think your sharing also just painted a picture of what that gap looks like for someone who's seeking those services as well, and the lack of those services being available, right? I'm going to invite Angela to facilitate the next question. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bristy. And what stood out for me was we can't unsee what the COVID pandemic has what we've known, and many of us that have been doing this work have known for a long time. It's not necessarily new information, but now it's being highlighted in potentially new ways or reaching new people, and then the opportunity that brings. And so thank you so much for sharing your reflections, and at both this, the organizational systemic level, and then right down to the individual level with your sharing. Selena, I think it really it just connects everything so powerfully, and so really appreciate that first dialogue and conversation. So moving on to question 2, and this kind of builds on the discussion we just had. So violence against women has historically and continues to center on white cisgendered women and their experiences. As we aim to integrate prevention strategies into our pandemic recovery, both at the university, as part of the university community, but also beyond, how do we integrate these strategies through an anti-colonial and anti-oppressive lens? And T, if we could ask you to start off.
Miigwech, Angela, absolutely. So I would really like to take another opportunity to highlight the work that we completed last year at UTM through the UTM EDIO and the UTM Indigenous Initiatives Unit. And we were also able to access an incredible grant through U of T Sexual Violence Prevention and Support Center called the Campus Women's Safety Grant last year. And I think what's really important when we think about this question is that really encouraging folks to engage with the experts, community members, families that are deeply invested and also impacted by a lot of the things that we're talking about today. So through this grant last year, we were able to connect and invite Kaya Robinson, who was a previous lead commissioner for the National Inquiry to MMIWG. And we were also able to invite Karen Dumel, who was also one of the lead researchers carrying out the inquiry. And it was a very incredible experience because of the fact that we were engaging not only with the experts, but we were able to get an opportunity to have a really impactful and actionable dialogue with UTM community members and beyond around what are our roles and responsibilities in ending violence. And more importantly, with having the guidance and support from a lead commissioner and from a lead researcher. So I think, and again, like a lot of these opportunities did come through our extended community support at U of T, but it was a really great reminder for us that, you know, we can access these incredible advocates in our communities who this wasn't something that just concluded back in June with the final report being submitted, that this is something that is being carried through our roles and responsibilities to our families, our communities, you know, our nations. And I think that was like a really heavy reminder for all of us, is that we can access the supports and more importantly, those experts to guide us in that work. I'm also grateful that both Kaya and Karen, where I don't see them as just experts, but I also see them as community members, as my Nanoches, my aunties who are willing to kind of continue that work on for all of us. So I think that's something that I think is really important, and also like connecting those key messages of how we can be agents of change, and we do have that roadmap to support the work. And it's something that it's continuing. One of the things I'd really encourage everyone in this space, and I did mention this last year, is not only to take the time to review the final report for MMIWG, which again, when you review it, you're honoring around 2,400 plus testimonies of family members, community members who share their experiences and their impacts of violence. But also you're engaging in that 231 calls for justice. And then as an extension, and this just recently came out, please community, check out the 2021 National Action Plan Ending Violence Against MMIWG and 2+ community members. This just came out this past June. And my biggest piece is I don't want these reports and all of the work and the honoring of the stories of our community members to be lost or to be put on the shelf. We need to continue to have this dialogue and discussion to honor them, but also more importantly, to really make that change. So Miigwech, thank you.
Thank you very much, T. And I see that Kate is sharing some of those action plans in the chat. So really encourage everyone to take note of those links. Selena, if we can ask you to share any thoughts.
Sure. So speaking from my own experience, I feel like people coming from specific cultures might have issues or challenges accessing not just supportive resources, but also educational resources as well. Like, for example, discussions like this might be a really good opportunity for people to think about their thoughts and also to learn from others on this topic. But for people coming from other cultures, their first language might not be English. So language might be one barrier for them to access the resource, and culture might be another barrier that I think sex or concepts related to this are kind of a taboo in some cultures. And it's like, for example, in Chinese cultures, we don't talk about this and we try to avoid talking about this in our culture. So I think some students coming from this kind of backgrounds might have some troubles accessing those educational resources, and they don't really have an opportunity to have an honest discussion or have some kind of input from other people. So they don't know a lot about how to protect themselves, and also know a lot about their rights, how to navigate possible violence situations, how can they get help in that situation. So I think that's one thing that we need to keep in mind to make those educational resources more available to people in other cultures as well. I think it might be helpful for us to probably collaborate with some student clubs. I know that we have some Chinese student clubs on our campus, and maybe they can have like provide a different lens of how can we make those information or make those resources more available, more accessible to people in other cultures as well. Yeah, I think that's all I want to share.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Selena, and the importance of making sure that we're connecting at the community level, right? And that the community is so important in ensuring that this information is, one, we're understanding the needs, and this information is also being able to be disseminated in a culturally relevant and accessible way. So thank you for that reference. Paulette?
Yes, thank you, Angela. And what I can add to this discussion is that at the Canadian Women's Foundation, we have shifted using the term gender-based violence to be inclusive, to be much more inclusive across the board. When we're talking about intimate partner violence, gender-based violence is more inclusive and encompasses all types of abuse that women, girls, and Two-Spirit and trans and non-binary people experience, because quite often non-binary folks are at the highest risk of gender-based violence. And in terms of prevention, it's also important, as Selena was just talking about, to take an empowering, culturally appropriate approach, and it needs to start with young people. So for us at the foundation, we fund teen healthy relationship programs that help young people of all genders learn skills and conflict resolution, setting boundaries, as well as assertive communication. And these are the programs that we fund that can actually catch teens just as they're starting to form intimate relationships, encouraging them to challenge gender stereotypes, recognize abuse in all its forms, because this is not something that we actually teach in our education system. And so these programs are also a great model for what we call an anti-colonial, anti-oppressive approach, because the teens in the programs often become co-facilitators themselves, and in fact are helping to shape and lead the activities in these programs. So we fund these programs in communities throughout the country, so in all provinces and territories, but we also make sure that we're funding them in rural and remote areas, which are critical. And each one is tailored to meet the needs of its region, delivered by facilitators, mentors, elders from those communities. So we're really doing our best to sort of steer away from the traditional one-size-fits-all to actually responding to what the needs in the communities are that are aligned based on what folks identify they need, but also holistic in its approach and inclusive in terms of who it focuses on. So it's important that we also keep learning and building the capacity of the programs and the organizations that provide those programs to be inclusive, while providing safe spaces that everyone can actually participate in.
Thank you, Paulette. I love that emphasis on the need to start young, right? And how empowering youth in these conversations is so integral. And the idea and the notion of co-creating and co-collaborating together. Renita, any additional thoughts?
I feel like I'm going to repeat. So it's really nice to have be on the same team and to hear this and the different scopes where we live and work. The same thing, speak to community and find out what they need. I think that's vital. And this work doesn't need to be done off the backs of folks who have experienced violence. It should be a wide range of humans working together to kind of figure out how to have to live in a way that people don't have to experience this. And if they do that, we're well supported. I think that's really important. And I also think that it's for like the anti-colonial lens, I think that we can also really like, and I think that Paulette and Selena also like touched on this as well, but like having culturally appropriate spaces that are not dominated by the Western idea of what healing and support looks like. Eating roti with people from my community is healthy. Prayer is going out in nature and staring at trees and enjoying like the crunch of the leaves underneath my feet. So there are different things and I hate to say tools, but for lack of a better word, things that we can bring in or that people already know. There's already ways for folks to do healing and to do the work. And I think that that should have a lot of space in these access and community work that we're doing. I think that it's really important, and it can be, you know, can also be the opposite. This doesn't work for everyone, but there is strength in community. And we've seen in the last almost 2 years what happens when we have to disconnect from people, when we don't have anyone but ourselves, and how isolating that could be. So yeah, different ways that folks can work together and to be together that aren't, you know, like, I can't like this is set up because somebody wrote a book a long time ago after they got a PhD and they're like, you got to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you're going to be great. No, let's get rid of that idea. Thanks.
Profound thank you to all of you for sharing such powerful words. You know, what keeps coming up for me is all of you speak to the, again, lack of resources and the accessibility of it, right? It's not enough that something is there if it's not accessible for specific communities. It is of no use, right? And speaking to, you know, this work doesn't need to be off the back of survivors, right? Because, you know, the movement against gender-based violence, it's collective work. Nobody ever said that I'm going to do this alone, right? Which is what we're all here for as well. I'm going to move us on to our next last question, folks. This one is about resiliency. Being resilient is often seen as an act of courage and strength in the context of enduring hardships. However, the reality of resiliency is that often people coming from intersections of many identities do not have a choice but to be resilient as they encounter adversities. As this recovery journey begins, how can we as a society continue forward with this resiliency while being mindful of the price of resiliency many pay? What is the role of allies when it comes to lifting that burden of resiliency? I'm going to invite Renita to share your thoughts first, please.
I'm trying to be on best behavior. Can we maybe not use the word? I feel like people don't have to be courageous or proud or healed or whatever. No one asked to be in this position. This was violence that was brought upon them. And dive into the anger, dive into the sadness. I don't think we need to have that as the landing. And again, my personal thoughts. But again, if resiliency wants, if that's what folks want, then that's great. But like, I don't think anyone needs to put on a face that says, yeah, I got through 6 weeks and now I'm good and I'm courageous and I'm strong because I've experienced this. No one asked for this. No one asked for this. It's performative. And it's exhausting as a racialized woman, having to be like, okay, cool. So I've experienced violence and I'm good. And I'm still going to have to deal with systemic racism, financial hardship, having to fight a little harder. I have an ethnic name. My sexual orientation. Like there's all these things, and it's just so hard. And then you want me to be resilient and shiny and sparkly? I don't like. I feel like it's just a hard ask. It's a hard ask for people. So, like if we're having those conversations and like, let people choose where they want to be, whatever day, whatever point, whatever outcome, whatever goal, put it community center ideas, like however you want to come out of this. Today, you pick whatever word or however you want to feel about this. And the next day, if you change that up, by all means. But I'm not here to tell you that you need to be shiny and sparkly and that you need to come out of this, being great and wonderful and being like projecting yourself and being like, here, I made it, like, I don't feel like we have to do that. That's what comes to mind when I think of the word resiliency. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And I think that speaks to that idea of what do we do to lift the burden, right? And our expectations of what does it mean to be resilient and shifting that, right? And shifting that resiliency. One, we don't need to use that word. And it can also look like living for today and doing what works for me today, right? I don't need to work towards that, shiny image that you're speaking about. Thanks for mentioning that.
Folks, does anybody else want to chime in about resiliency or not resiliency?
I will chime in, Bristy. I think I just want to share 2 quotes from 2 incredible Indigenous leaders, one of them still being with us. I always say this, and I tend to really want to bring this home, especially if there's Indigenous community members in this space. But Chief Murray Sinclair says, Indigenous people are not a people without hope. We have overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles in our long and painful histories because our Creator has given us the tools necessary for survival. We must not be shy to use them. And we're not. And these are some of the really key messages that my fellow panelists have shared around the importance of not only community connection, but those, I don't want to necessarily say survival skills, but those resiliency pieces that connect us are very much centered and connected to community, to culture, to language. And that's something that I just really want to encourage, especially my fellow Indigenous community members in this space, is that we have those necessary tools and, we should always connect with them as much as we can, especially in community. And then the other, it's not necessarily a quote, but I really hope I'm making her proud today. Elder Lee Miracle, she always really instilled and encouraged leadership in our communities. And one of the things in terms of allyship that I think about that would be relevant to this question, and that the great knowledge that she's always shared with extended community, like in this space and outside, is just really encouraging us not only to be fearless with our words, but to be fearless with our action. And I think that's something that if I could leave everyone here with sharing that knowledge with everyone today, please, like, it's something that we have to really think about if our community, if we're really talking about getting to a place of action, like, we need to be fearless. And these conversations are never easy, but how can we instill that, that courage, that resiliency, that fearlessness that Lee has shared with us in our communities? That's something that I would like to share here as well. Miigwech, thank you.
Thank you very much, T. Fearless action. Sorry, go ahead, Paulette.
Perhaps I can chime in as well, because I think this is a very important question and one that is imposed. Resiliency is a bit of an imposition on people who suffer the most, on people who have the least, on those who have been oppressed our entire lives and existence, And when you think of all the systems of oppression, beginning with colonialism, but all the other isms that have betrayed us, as well as prevented us from achieving or even the expectation of greatness, it really is a huge injustice that's been experienced by Black and Indigenous and racialized people in this country, and as well as women and folks of all genders. So, you know, I think the lens through which we look at this is best kind of in this quote by one of our founders, the late great Rosemary Brown, who was the first Black woman to be elected in provincial parliament in this country. She said, "Until all of us have made it, none of us have made it." Right? And to me, that is the spirit and the approach and the talk about allyship that needs to be taken when we talk about the issue of gender-based violence, but all forms of oppression. Until all of us have made it, none of us should consider that we've made it, right? I think we're seeing the same with this virus, variant after variant. Until we all know that we're safe, none of us are safe, right? And so to me, allyship, particularly on a day-to-day basis, is about, you know, whether it's in your workplace or in your community or on the bus or, you know, various kinds of public spaces. It's about when you see something that's unfair, say something, do something, respond. Because that's what allyship, don't look at the person experiencing it to be the one to be a hero and this resilient hero that's going to come up with the right thing to say. Utilize the privileges we have to actually break down the barriers that others experience. And because that is true allyship. It's putting yourself out front to actually make sure that the rest of us can also experience that safety that you experience. And the last thing I want to say is that just recently at the foundation, we created the Signal for Help last spring, 2020. The Signal for Help is a one-handed signal where you put your full hand up, you tuck your thumb, you fold your fingers over it. It's a non-digital trace leaving signal that just signals the public that you need help. And folks may have heard about the case in Kentucky, but it's worldwide. And so what we did was actually, for folks who want to be allies, we created a signal responder campaign. Signalforhelp.ca is where folks will go to learn how you can actually respond when you see someone who's experiencing abuse. So I encourage folks to do that and learn how to actually support others as well.
Thank you very much, Paulette. Kate, thank you for putting that link into our chat. Feel free to visit that link, folks. It's in our chat. Selena, did you want to share some thoughts on this?
It's really beautiful comments, and thank you so much for all those words shared. It's really encouraging, and it's like, and I'm really feeling for those words. And then I think what I can share is also, I think when we support other people, like you shared, it's very important for us. If we are in a privileged position, we should stand out for them, for that allyship to help other people. And when we are in a underprivileged position, we should believe that we have that intrinsic ability to have that kind of resilience and to believe that we can make it through. And it's really, really important. And also, I think from a cultural perspective, it's also important to respect other people's choice of resilience. Because I heard a story that's not just one person's story, but probably stories of a lot of people in China right now. A lot of probably women with like my mother's age, they are brought up with the culture that they need to have a happy family per se, and building a happy relationship with their husband and have children is what they consider as a happy life for themselves. And but sometimes they do face violence that's like from their husband or their partners. And I think by helping them out of that situation, we not only help them to get out of that violent situation, we also should consider their preference for what's considered a happy relationship. So we should not force them to get a divorce if that's not their choice, or we should not force them to make any decision because we consider that as the best choice for them. So I think that's just one point I can add to all those wonderful comments of other panelists, that we should consider other people's preference or what they consider as a good option to get them out of that situation. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Selena. That's a very important point, having agency over what you consider, whether if you do consider yourself to be resilient or not, and having agency of how you maneuver your life and your decisions, right? And for folks who provide support and services to meet people where they are at, right? And also, what I'm hearing from all of you as well is it's not enough to call yourself an ally if you don't show up practically with a tangible action item. It's not enough just to, you tokenize yourself as an ally, and that goes for myself as well. Thank you so very much for the very powerful, awesome conversation, folks. I'm going to hand it over to Angela.
Thank you, Bristy. And we're conscious of time and that we're at the 1 o'clock mark. So we're going to not be able to get to the Q&A section today, but we did want to highlight that a lot of the questions that were coming through actually was focused on allyship and what are some of the tangible pieces that folks that are looking to be an ally do. And I think what I'm hearing is, one, it's personal reflection, right? We can't just call ourselves an ally, so we have to personally reflect and think about the privileges that we hold. And Paulette said it nicely, how can we use those privileges to then create space and include and involve and address harm towards others. And so being aware of our privileges, using our privileges, taking the risks, right? It means putting ourselves out there and taking the risks that are necessary, doing the learning, right? So T spoke about some really great resources, a lot of work that's already been done by community. And so making sure that we are utilizing and taking the time to invest in that learning and unlearning that we need to do and moving that towards action. And so that means reading those documents, right? And consulting with the community and working with the advocates and the experts that are already out there. It's and so doing that necessary work. So thank you so much, everyone today, for your comments. Really, really appreciated the thought-provoking remarks and this deeply meaningful dialogue. We're honored to share this space with you. And we know that this requires difficult questions, sitting with this discomfort, and resiliency or not resiliency, whatever the language is, but whatever that, that there is no alternative, we need to be doing this work. So to continue our work, we must embrace critical hope and pursue tangible actions to address systemic oppression and gender-based violence. The movement against gender-based violence is collective work in which we all must do our part, especially those of us with privilege. Whether by supporting someone individually, contributing through our daily work or research, offering financial support, volunteering, or through other means, we all have a role to play in actualizing a world without gender-based violence. So thank you for your time today, and we're going to pass this back to Marisa to close up today's event.
Thank you so much, Angela, Bristy, Selena, Renita, T, and Paulette. What an excellent panel discussion. This does bring us to the end of the commemorative event. Really thank everyone here for participating today. Today, we really reflect, we remember, and we also respond. We have heard in the panel discussion the importance of community, of listening to community, and the need for more resources. We have heard the importance of being more inclusive when discussing gender-based violence. We have heard how victims and survivors are already courageous and strong, and how all of society is needed to step up and find courage and strength to take action and speak out against violence against women and gender-based violence, versus focusing on building resiliency for those who are oppressed for any reason. The eradication of gender-based violence in all forms of oppression is collective work. So please consider making a personal commitment to find your own avenues to continue this work beyond today and with each other. You already heard from Angela a summary of some of the tangible actions you can take. You can also find a list of tangible actions on the Twitter feed of UT Engineering, and perhaps this link could be even provided in the chat as another resource. I would really like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the members of this year's planning committee, to all the speakers, to the students who are part of a memorial video, to the student readers in the memorial video, to the school orchestra for your wonderful performance, to the award recipients, and to all those organizing the event this year. This event would not have been possible without the leadership, vision, and commitment of this team to seeing this event come to fruition. I'd like to also extend my appreciation to the team at the Community Safety Office, the Faculty of Applied Science and Engineering, to Hart House, the Sexual and Gender Diversity Office, the Sexual Violence Prevention and Support Center. It has been such an honor to be your MC today, as the day and topic is personally very emotional, very moving, and very significant. Finally, I wish everyone a healthy and safe holiday break. This concludes today's event. Thank you, merci, and miigwech.